in Hong Kong for the last generation. They did not choice.
The Republican candidate for governor.
Have sexual relations.
And I realize that this is something he isn't
We're going to be able to solve our problems if we get distracted by sideshows and carnival barkers.
One Republican, one Democrat, and you discuss the issues that matter in today's local, state, national, and global politics. Hosted by Steve Hickson with co-hosts John Stanberry and Franklin Chansey. This is Backfire.
Good morning. Daniel Brantley here in place of Steve Hickson. Once again, he's got the reindeer crud. John and Franklin, y'all doing all right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Franklin sounds excited.
Yeah.
Both of y'all sounded excited.
Wow.
John, I'm glad
Well,
you're
this is unusual. We don't have a live studio audience this week, and so it kind of holds the mood. Not as exciting, the live studio.
Yeah, we've had to cut down on that because the fans get a little riotous out
Well,
there.
all the blood and sweat and saliva being slung.
Yeah, people get really riled up at this show.
You don't want to be in the front couple rows.
No, it's like a Gallagher show.
All right, now we're aging ourselves.
Bring your poncho. I've always threatened my wife to grow my hair out and look like Gallagher, but not done it yet.
Not done it.
I'll bring the watermelon.
Thank you. John, you have the big
I
hammer?
got a sledgehammer.
All right, very good. An oversized wooden one, so I can swing it easily and look real manly.
You look more manly.
Well, this is a political show. It's called Backfire. And next week is Christmas, so we're not going to be here for Christmas Eve. Yeah. So I hope if you're listening, you enjoy this last show of
2018.
2018. Yeah,
That's the year. Yeah.
I'm trying to think if we'll be here for New Year's, because that's the same day as Christmas usually. Right?
It's the day after New Year's.
The show is?
No, New Year's Day is Tuesday.
So it's the day after New Year's Day.
Okay, well, we might be here on January the 2nd. I have to check with Doval. But before we get started, do have a service announcement. Holiday season sees critical blood needs. According to a guy named what's his real name? Gaskins. J.B. Gaskins, President and CEO of Blood Assurance. Only 37% of the population is able to donate blood for various reasons. Only 5% give. And in the holiday season right now, there's a particular need for people to give. So if you've not given blood in a while, please do. Well, we have a new system in the city school system. A new system in the city. Yeah, a new program called Raptor. Have you guys heard about this?
Yeah, read your driver's license when you check in.
Yeah, they take your driver's license, scan it through a program. It does a quick check to see if you're any kind of bad person.
I believe the county's been doing that.
They have a different one. But
yeah,
they've been doing it for a couple of years.
Yeah.
It does help them out with some things. Somebody has an order of protection or outstanding criminal charges, that's supposed to pop up on the system.
Yep.
If they have court orders or something in place, it's supposed to notify the person at the front desk without them having to go look through a file or something to do that. So, all in all, it seems like a good thing. If the physical barriers to getting into the school work, then that should be a helpful thing.
I'm a little concerned, though, with constitutionality of it, since we can't do that for voting for our elected officials, according to the Democrats in Franklin. It's a violation of your rights, so I don't know why he would support it, in gaining access to our schools. You can gain access to our institutions through the ballot box without it. Is that right, Franklin?
Sure, John.
But you're opposed to it in the voting booth.
Well,
why is it good here?
Well, presumably anybody who gets to a school had to drive there somehow. So presumably they have a driver's license. So that's not always.
So you don't mind being discriminatory on that?
It's not discriminatory at all.
Not discriminatory. It's discriminatory according to you going into the voting booth.
No,
why
I've
did
never
discriminatory?
said that, no.
Yes, you have.
Actually,
You're opposed to it. You're opposed to ID for voting.
What I'm opposed to, John, is the Republican plot to keep people from voting. No,
asking for ID.
That's not true again, John. You mischaracterized what I say. It wouldn't be that hard for the government to go to some extra steps to make sure people have had that.
Georgia did, and your party opposed it.
Oh, yeah, we're seeing that. What we see
Voting
exactly what Brian Kemp was doing
Voting
now.
is at all-time high in Georgia.
Yeah, it would have been even higher.
Voting is at all-time
It would be
high.
an even higher if a crook wasn't
Voting
handling
is at
the election.
You mean enforcing laws as duly enacted by the legislature of Georgia?
Stuffing ballots in his back office and saying, well, we at least have problems.
There's Franklin, you're just making stuff up out of the air.
You need to read more of these stories, John.
I don't read the Daily Cause.
I don't either. So, what is the Daily Cause?
It's a liberal rag that puts these kind of conspiracy stories out there. And then, of course, the Washington Post picks them up, which you would consider legitimizing them. They still came from people like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
George Soros-funded organizations.
How about the Atlantic Journal and Constitution?
Which picks it up?
Are they a ragtag organization?
No, but they're a liberal bias rag, like most newspapers.
Okay. Now Republicans are
man
anti-newspaper.
You know what's funny about this is Trump was going to be, and the Republicans are going to be the ones that wouldn't accept the results of elections. It's the Democrats. When they lose, they won't accept the results.
Because we keep finding story after story where Republicans are violating the law.
Franklin, the California Democrat Party has now legalized intimidation at the doorstep through ballot harvesting. How about the North Carolina
when the Republicans won't even certify?
And what did the Republican Party demand? They demanded that the entire election be redone. Why don't you apply the same rules to the state of California, where what is being alleged and you just complained about is actually completely legal in
proof
California?
Of that happening.
It's legal in California. They've got to actually ring doorbells of the girl. Girl knocks on the door and says, "Hey, I'm here to collect your ballot." It's
in
a
this
new.
particular
This is her.
case,
Listen to my
we
word
have
for
people
word.
signing
It's a new program.
John, affidavits saying that they hadn't even completed their ballot.
Yes, you're right, but it's a new. This girl says at the doorbell on video, this is a new program put together to help the Democrat Party. Okay. There's another couple that the girl came to their door 4 times, never asked for their ballots because they were registered Republicans, but asked for their 18-year-old unaffiliated daughter's ballot. Now, the very thing, and I agree with you, Franklin, I don't like ballot harvesting, but your party just made it perfectly legal in the entire state of California. And we had 6 congressional candidates in Republican districts that were thousands of votes ahead on election night, and by the end of ballot harvesting, every single one of them lost. But you don't mind that, because it was your party that did it.
Actually, John, if you can prove that this had an impact
Here's
on this
the problem,
election, I will support you.
Your party made it legal to do it in California and Washington State. Mm-hmm. Democrat, liberal states have made what you're complaining about in North Carolina, which it's actually illegal in North Carolina under North Carolina law, and the state Republican Party has called for that entire election to be redone, which your party's actually opposing.
Well, you know what,
it's
John,
perfectly legal in California.
It seems to me, John, if you can prove any of those things, which I doubt.
You're the one that brought it up in North Carolina.
Let me finish. I rather doubt that the federal courts wouldn't step in and say that's illegal.
Franklin, I just told you. Under California,
you're not listening to what I said.
I am listening to you.
What
will the state of California do when that lawsuit's brought? The Attorney General in the state of California will defend that lawsuit because it's a Democrat state. They're the ones that enacted it, and they're the ones benefiting from it.
That doesn't have anything to do with the federal court, John. Those are different things.
My point to you, frankly, is the very people that are criticizing ballot harvesting in the North Carolina election because it favored a Republican, which, by the way, he actually did the same thing in the primary and ousted a Republican incumbent. So he did it to us first, and then he did it to the Democrat. The very same people, like the Washington Post, that are writing about that have not written a single line about ballot harvesting in California and Washington State because it benefited your party.
As I said, John, if you can find any proof to verify these things, I would imagine there would be an opposite result.
Would you like me to bring the California state statute into?
I didn't say anything about the statute.
That your party passed?
That somebody was doing something illegal other than just ballot harvesting.
Let's have a legitimate conversation. Do you think it's good for third unaffiliated parties to be able to pick up ballots at people's homes and deliver them by the truckload to the election office?
Personally,
yes.
No, I don't.
That's ballot harvesting.
I understand
and
that.
that's actually completely legal in the state of California, in Washington State, and I believe in Oregon, all Democrat strongholds. All of them made that completely legal. No limit on how many you can. And here's what happens, Franklin.
Of course, the difference would be, John, that the Republicans could do it also in California.
I don't want the Republicans to do it.
Whether you do it or not.
Here's your problem,
That's
Franklin.
not what was happening
Let's
in North
say
Carolina,
that
is it?
a couple of things happen here. Let's say that you, in California and several of the Democrat states, they're actually making it where it's perpetuity. You can request a mail-to-you ballot, absentee ballot, for the rest of time. So organizations could actually intercept those ballots at the mailbox and mark them as they wanted, and then drop them off in droves.
Well, that's really the question, isn't it?
Or no, here's another one. Let's say that you go to a house.
Isn't it the question that somebody is altering ballots?
Yes, but here's the question. Here's another question for you. Not just altering. Let's say I go to your door and there's a "Make America Great Again" sign in your yard, and I collect your ballot. And this is what they actually think happened in North Carolina. Just throw that ballot away, because I know how you voted. You voted for the Republicans, so I'll just trash your ballot. That's why part of the problem for me, Franklin, is I've fought against this on a local level. We've had organizations that voted nursing home people, organizations that voted mentally handicapped people.
It's the same. It's the same as people going around and giving free rides to the polls.
Nobody should do this except a family member or a legitimate caregiver. But your party in these Democrat states is pushing this in the opposite direction. So if you want to impress me, take a stand against your own party doing this.
Well, impressing you is at the top of my list, I admit. But
he's not going to take a stand against his own party.
No, what I'm going to point out here is whatever was happening in California was equally available and legal to the Republican Party. Unlike the North Carolina case where it was not legal.
No. And you're right, Franklin. You're absolutely. I'm going to agree with you. You're absolutely right. You all are much better at cheating at the ballot box than we are. Thank you for pointing that out.
Franklin, do you have slalom skiers on your bow tie?
I do have slalom skiers on.
That's very nice. Well, now moving on, and I do like your tie. That wasn't just a cheap segue.
Well, it was a nice one, though.
Well, we've got the county has authorized jail security upgrades. They put the cap for upgrading these things at $350,000. Some of the problems are doors automatically pop open sometimes where the inmates are. The problem is they got 3 bids. Have you guys seen the bids on them?
No.
The lowest bid was $437,000. So they talked to the lowest bidder, talked them down to $369,000, and now they're going to go back and see if they can't get another $19,000 to fix this. And the sheriff says, there's no guarantee. This isn't a fix all.
It's not the end of it.
No,
and these are ongoing problems that have been there for years.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest, the construction was not handled correctly in the first place.
Yeah, we've heard kind of horror stories about not doing it correctly, not overseeing it, I guess, because that's where it ultimately falls, right? Whoever oversees that construction. And
correct.
Whoever that would be. And then we've got back to our rezoning stuff with Candies Creek Cherokee Elementary School coming.
I've heard the reason they didn't do anything with Highway 60 is apparently there's been a real surge in private helicopter use, and they think a lot of the traffic will actually be landing from the air out there. So there was no reason to upgrade the dilapidated, small, narrow 2-lane road before you built a 3rd school on it.
Well, it's my understanding there is a state project that has to do with widening that out there.
Okay, so the state has plans to open it up.
And the city's view about it is they want to get this one done before that state project, because when that highway gets closed for the state work, a lot of that traffic will divert, unfortunately, across Candies Creek there. So that's actually their thought process, to get ahead of that project.
But the road in front of the school will be closed, is what you're saying,
for a period of time, yes.
Great planning. That's wonderful planning.
Well, that's the state doing that.
No, my point is, frankly, we shouldn't have built the school there until the road was complete, until the road was able to adequately handle that. Well, I suppose
one of the questions would be, is the school something that has motivated the state to do the improvement? Is it a chicken or egg kind of?
When I lived on Bowman Avenue, they came down, they paved Bowman Avenue, which needed it. 3 months later, the utility company came all the way down the. Well, you lived on Bowman Avenue.
But that would be
and
the
cut
same.
big holes in it.
But that would be the same political body.
3 months later, the gas company came and cut more holes, so we had a brand new paved road within 6 months, had holes cut all up and down it. Which, by the way, once you cut that hole, water goes down in it, it turns cold, it freezes, it pops that plug back up. And when I asked several of them, why can you all not get this coordinated? They said, well, we don't have anything to do with the utility company. We don't have anything to do with the gas company. We do our thing, they do their thing. Now, I guarantee if it was your driveway and you were paying for it out of your pocket, you'd make sure that was coordinated and you didn't cut holes in a brand new driveway.
But that was done before the day of telephones.
Yeah, it was back in the early 2000s.
Yeah, and you had horse and buggy riding along it. Yeah, the new school is supposed to hold between 426 and 470 students, and all schools will be decreasing except for Blythe Bower, which will go from about 543 to 570 or so.
Isn't Blythe Bower one of the biggest schools already? I wonder why that side of town doesn't get the same attention.
I don't know. It's interesting. If you're a parent of a Blythe Bower kid, we're going to open the phone lines for you, 614-5553. Or if you're a city council or a school board member, that'd be great. 614-5553. If you're not a Blythe Bower parent or a school board or city council,
call him.
Or the mayor. Oh, well, John just
You're
said
gonna exclude
call.
Because we take so many calls.
We do, yeah,
that's
that's true. All right, the phone lines are open for anybody and everybody. If you have a song request you want us to play in a couple hours.
Song request.
We've got the county now. You know, the city has often dealt with water issues, flooding and stuff. The county's doing that some more. I guess the big water issues for the county, years ago at least, was everyone was asking to get tapped into some water because the drought was so bad. But now we've got drainage and flooding issues.
Oh, the water table. We've had a tremendous amount of, and I was in West Tennessee this weekend. They have the same problem. Tremendous amounts of water have come down.
Oh, John, that's the power of Western.
John Stanberry.
That's right, John Stanberry. Ask and he receives. Caller, you're live on Whoop.
Hey, Daniel, how's it going, my friend?
Hey, doing fine. How are you? What can we do for you, Bullet?
Well, I didn't know what your question was exactly, but there is something I like to ask these guys to talk about if they can.
Mm-hmm.
There was a judge that said that the Obamacare is unconstitutional. I'd like to know what their opinion is on that.
All right, we'll get on it. Anything else, Bullet?
What's that?
Anything else?
No, that's all. Thanks.
All right, you're welcome. All right, boys, you got some fresh meat thrown in front of you.
Fresh meat, huh?
Yep.
It's one ruling. It'll probably end up being overturned, but it does actually go to the heart of what the original ruling that Judge Roberts kind of rewrote the law. And a lot of us think he legislated from the bench, but it was based on the tax. And this actually goes to the heart of his argument. So it'll be interesting to see what it does.
Were it to be enforced, and I don't mean this as a defense of Obamacare when I say this, it would skyrocket premiums because if you throw out the whole thing, that means that insurance companies then would be free to raise their rates for people with pre-existing conditions, which they're not allowed to do right now. And that would have an enormous impact on that. And then you'd have the idea that there are some non-conforming plans, which the Trump administration permitted this past year, that don't provide the same level of benefits. And so if people flooded into those, that puts further pressure on the traditional plans, who are then stuck with the pre-existing folks that were already on there, and the premiums go up a lot more. It's really, from an economic standpoint, and that's what I'm talking about right now, it's really problematic.
Yeah.
I don't think the Republicans were necessarily happy with that. Really,
well, first thing, every bill that we put forward to repeal Obamacare included making it illegal to exclude people with pre-existing conditions. Everything we put forward protected people with pre-existing conditions. Now, he's right. But when he mentions, for example, non-conforming plans, that means a 56-year-old man like myself won't have to pay for maternity coverage with my 56-year-old wife. I won't have to pay for pediatric dental coverage for my adult children.
It also means that plans can be put forth, though, that say, well, we don't cover heart disease. And of course, young people
might buy that. Because we're a
and
capitalist
take the
society.
money out of the system
Because we're
where people who do have heart disease, and thereby make those plans impossible, so they implode.
Now, that would also be people with heart disease that have smoked 2 packs of cigarettes every day for
who
their entire
could
life.
who can be charged more under
Which they
Obamacare.
should be.
They should be, but they can be.
If you drive poorly,
Obamacare provides that, doesn't
if you drive poorly, you can be charged more for
Doesn't
your automobile
Obamacare
insurance.
allow them to charge a higher premium
No,
for smokers?
yes,
they do.
it actually regulates that pretty heavily. They can be charged slightly more, and originally it didn't allow that. That was something that was added.
But it's there now.
Yeah, I'd like to say that I think John should be more concerned with life insurance right now, since he just told his wife's age on the air. For millions of listeners across the globe. This is an international radio station.
Oh, look, Lisa sent me a message.
What's love got to do with it? Lisa, if you want to call in, feel free, or we can go to radio break if y'all need a minute.
What she said is that we should talk about cooperatives, which you'll hear some of the advertisers, some Christian cooperatives that are actually functioning very well, and catastrophic care. If you're a 23-year-old, now look, I don't know. I might be more risk averse, and so I might buy a more extensive insurance. But a lot of 23-year-olds say, you know what? I'm not going to die of heart disease in the next 10 years. I'm not going to die of cancer in the next 10 years. What I will get is catastrophic care that covers me if I'm, severely injured in a car wreck. But the point is, I'm willing, as a Republican, as a conservative, to give them the option of actually managing their own life. Franklin and the Democrat Party, quite frankly, just recently has admitted that Obamacare was simply a vehicle to move everybody into Medicare for all, socialized medicine. That was the intent at the beginning. And unfortunately, it's working.
There's a kernel of truth in what John just said, because exactly what he just described is what would happen. Young people would clearly sign on to the catastrophic care portion of it, all right, and let everything else go, and pull all of their premiums out of the policies that have all of really sick people on it, which means insurance companies either couldn't pay for care for the really sick people, or the premiums would have to skyrocket for those people. That's just a fact.
Well,
that's
actually, there are all kinds of ways to fix that. For example, the Trump administration has now allowed organizations, first off, you can buy insurance across state lines, which the Democrats have fought for years. So now, if Blue Cross Blue Shield of Ohio offers a better plan, you can buy that. You couldn't buy that under Obamacare. We had to fix that. We also fixed it to where organizations can now sell group policies. For example, the Tennessee Dental Association is now offering a group policy. So myself, I don't have to buy a separate policy with just me and a couple of my employees. I can now buy into a policy that has employees all across the state in it, which lowers the insurance. Those are the kind of conservative reforms we've enacted that they don't want, because they've admitted that the whole point of Obamacare was to collapse the health care into a single-payer, government-run health care plan. That's the plan.
Who made this admission, John? Who was that? Exactly?
Frankly, the Democrat Party has admitted that across the board.
The Democrat Party admitted it?
Yes.
Really?
Nancy Pelosi has said it. Harry Reid said it.
Okay.
Chuck Schumer has said it.
Okay, John.
They have, Franklin. They said. A matter of fact, Obama said that I'm for single payer, and that he envisioned this Obamacare plan would lead to single payer. That's the president of the United States admitting that that was his ultimate goal.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, none of the things that John talks about solves any of the problems that Obamacare was created
because of. Do you have to have full
of.
coverage on your car?
Yes, actually, you do.
No, you don't have to have full coverage.
We have to have coverages that protect other people.
Right,
John.
but on your own car, do you have to have full coverage? No. You can. You don't have to. Why do you grant them that ability? That personally,
actually,
I'm not
that's a perfectly great. That's a wonderful example, John. We make a decision as a society that you're required to protect the people
someone
around
else.
That's
not
right.
monetary.
That's right.
Not a monetary
and exactly
decision.
what we're
That's
saying.
A car decision.
What we're saying on that is, if you allow those people to pull all their money out of that system, then you're going to stick it to everybody
they pull
else.
Money out of it with the system we got, Franklin. I'm willing to let the market work on this. I'm willing to let people have the freedom to control their own lives. I don't want national health care system in Great Britain, Franklin, is getting ready to outlaw anyone leaving the country for medical care. Because anybody with enough money in Great Britain, the plan that Obama and all the Democrat acolytes held up as the example, they leave the country for care. So much so that the national health system in Great Britain is going to outlaw it. It's also why they wouldn't let those 2 little babies leave the country. Because God forbid they go to another country and actually survive. That shows how poor the national health system in Great Britain is.
Except when you look at actual outcomes, they do way better than that.
Franklin, they postponed all surgeries for 2 months at the first start of this year. In January, they postponed all surgeries until the end of February.
It was elective, sir.
No, it wasn't. It actually wasn't. You had doctors that said they were functioning in third world conditions in Great Britain. It is. I had the quotes. I brought them in here. 1,800 people 3 years ago died in the national health care system in Great Britain from dehydration. Not cancer, not heart attacks, not enough water in the hospitals.
John, have you ever seen the numbers of how many people die in American hospitals from that? It's shameful. And it's way, percentage-wise, way more.
I tell you what, tell me 2 things. Tell me why they wouldn't let that baby leave and go to Italy. The Italian government was going to pay for everything. It would have actually pulled him out of the system and saved the system money. And tell me why they're contemplating making it illegal for anyone to leave the country for medical care. Why? Why would they have to do that?
I haven't seen this, John.
Well, I brought it in here. We talked about it.
No,
why would they do? All right, let's assume you just give me the benefit of the doubt that it's true. Why would they have to do that in such a great healthcare system, according to you?
Doesn't make any sense, John.
It does. It makes perfect sense. Because people don't want the health care. It sucks.
Actually, John, the number 1 public institution in terms of popularity in Great Britain, poll after poll, decade after decade, is the public health service.
Well, then why would people leave the country? Why would anybody leave the country?
Because they have a private insurance layer that's on top
one of the, whatever they call him in Canada, the chancellor or something, when Obamacare was being enacted, he went on the news, he talked about how great the Canadian system was, he supported Obama, he supported Obamacare, and then when he needed a heart procedure, he came to Chicago and had it done.
Okay.
Franklin, he bragged on how great the Canadian system was, but then he came to America.
Here's what happens, John. You are relentlessly focused on the micro.
I'm
this individual case.
On freedom.
This individual case.
Freedom.
No, you're not.
Freedom.
First of all, John, there's been nothing free about the American healthcare system in your lifetime.
Freedom to
Number
choose,
1.
Franklin.
You didn't have that 30 years ago. You didn't have that 40 years ago.
I don't want government control. I want freedom.
You know what, John? Go live out in the woods somewhere where nobody can bother you.
Actually, everybody bothers you. You can't do that in America. You can't live out in the woods because guess what? If I shoot a gun inside the city limits, I'm in trouble. You can't live like that in America, and people like you and your party are reining people's freedom in more and more every day. We are giving away our freedom every day to the government.
Oh my God, there's so many things I've done in my lifetime I can no longer do. What are those exactly?
Franklin?
What are those things, John, that have been taken away from you? The right to shoot your gun in a crowded city?
No, Franklin.
Really?
The right to shoot my... All right, for example, Franklin, Hardwick Farms is probably over 1,000 acres. It's in the city.
Okay.
What's the problem with shooting a gun there?
Well, first of all, bullets travel farther than that frequently. Number 2, there's all kinds of houses around the perimeter.
Hunters know that, Franklin.
Oh, do they, John?
I've hunted in fields, bird hunted, where the neighboring field had a whole herd of cattle in it. You don't shoot where you're going to hit the cattle.
Well,
People can be responsible.
My office has actually had to defend somebody who had shot somebody outside of an area that way by accident.
Yes, Franklin, accidents happen.
That's right. And sometimes the law is set up to avoid those kinds of accidents.
You can say, put it however you want, Franklin. We are slowly handing our freedom over to government bureaucrats. And the worst part is we're handing them over to judges who aren't even elected, serve for life. And they're making decisions that really ought to be in the hands of legislative bodies. But you're okay with it because most of the judges that do that are liberal bureaucrat judges.
Okay. I again say, tell me about all the horrible things that you've lost the ability to do in this life.
All right.
It's supposed to be an exhaustive
Let me give you one. You know, you hear them talk about secret bank accounts in Switzerland. You've heard the story, movies and all kinds of stuff, secret bank accounts. Mm-hmm. What's the norm in the world? Banking secrecy laws or banking reporting to the government laws?
I actually
banking secrecy. Banking secrecy. We are the only major country in the world that every single transaction you do is reported to the government. We are actually not in the norm in that. In Switzerland, the reason it's secret is because they want you to have the
reason
ability.
It's secret there is because they wanted people around the world to put their money there.
Franklin, that's the norm in the rest of the world.
If it's the norm in the rest of the world, John, why were so many people sending their money to Switzerland?
Because it's not the norm in America. Because the government reports everything.
Why would they send it to these other countries, John?
Because
it was Switzerland
did a better job of it.
Okay.
I mean, they didn't send it. They sent it to the Cayman Islands. They sent it to Switzerland. Switzerland just was better at it.
I know. The mafia is really upset about it. The Trump organization is really upset about it.
The fact is, we are one of the few countries that don't have banking secrecy laws. And why should every transaction I do be reported to the government? It's like the bootleggers. Everybody talks about the bootleggers, and whenever you read the history on it, it's implied that the government was trying to stop the illegal manufacture of alcohol. The government didn't care about the alcohol. They cared about the taxes on the alcohol. That's all that was about. They didn't care if you made it, as long as you paid the taxes on it. We've always, especially since 1913, when we changed the entire Constitution to allow progressive taxation, the government has gone after more and more and more of our lives and our money.
And with that, we'll be back.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson. We'll be right back after this.
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Another SOS, and you're stressing, and that's the time to check in. I check into cash.
It's that time again. Are you more back to school or back to bills? When you need extra cash, text the word quote to 55670 for a free, no-obligation quote. Learn how much cash you can pre-qualify for. That's quote to 55670. Get pre-qualified today.
Your one-stop money shop. Check into cash.
Dr. Christopher Chase, with associates in plastic surgery, now offers his patients the convenience of a Cleveland office at 2350 North Ocoee Street. Dr. Chase specializes for the ladies in breast augmentation, including lifts, reconstructions, and reductions. Also, tummy tucks or mommy makeovers, and facial rejuvenation, including facelifts, eyelids, brows, nose, and he also offers Botox procedures. Check out Dr. Christopher Chase. He is certified by the American Board of Surgery, the American Board of Plastic Surgery. He's a member of the American Society of Plastic Surgeons and the American Society of Aesthetic Plastic Surgery. Check their website out at aprs.md. That's aprs.md. Call for your convenient appointment in Cleveland at 624-0021. 624-0021. 2350 North Ocoee. That's Dr. Christopher Chase. Attention, Cleveland area creditors. Are you tired of dealing with debtors that owe you money? I'm Jeff Renfro, and I've owned and operated Financial Recovery, a debt recovery specialist here in my hometown of Cleveland for 18 years. We're a licensed and bonded Tennessee collection agency working for a wide variety of creditors from commercial, manufacturing, physicians, dentists, attorneys, small business owners to individuals. Look, any kind of business dealing with billing, charge accounts, or even return checks. I know your past due accounts are not a top priority for you, but they would be to me. Let me try to make it easy for you to make a change in the way you've been handling your accounts. There's no contract and no cost to you in most cases, as our fee of only 30% can be added to the balance owed to you. So, whether you have hundreds of accounts monthly and need help with your billing and collection, or you're just an individual and somebody owes you money, let me help you. Give me a call at 400-5376 and I'll come by and see you. That's 400-5376.
Financial Recovery, a licensed and bonded collection agency in Cleveland, Tennessee. 400-5376.
Matthews Pool and Spa Company, located in Cleveland, Bradley County for over 45 years. You know them. They're your new swimming pool construction and supply company in Cleveland, Tennessee, now with 4 generations of Matthews to serve you. Matthews Pool and Spa Company, for over 45 years, your swimming pool construction and supply company, spa or hot tub installation and maintenance. Get all of your supplies for your pool or spa right now. And that's the new location in the old Quinn Electric Company building behind KFC at 2724 Key Street in Cleveland. Call Matthews now, 476-4521. You better get your order in now for your new pool construction for this spring and summer. 476-4521. Matthews Pool and Spa Company. Gonna jump in. Woo!
We're here at the Train Heating and Air Conditioning Testing Facility to see how unstoppable their products really are.
Inside this climate chamber, it's raining incredibly hard on this Train AC unit. Clearly, it's hard to stop the train.
Ready for a heating and air unit that's been tested in the harshest environments possible? Stop thinking about the other guys and get a Train. Call Mechanical Systems today to get your home on the road to comfort. 336-5739.
Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
No dealers allowed.
Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933, offering the best with over 70 styles of recliners, sofas, electronic lift chairs, full living room packages. Call Mike now at 961-7239 because Jackson Catnapper now offers sales to the public
Every Saturday. That's right, every Saturday.
From 8 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. Or call Mike at 961-7239. Or go see him
Every Saturday
at 1911 King Edward Avenue, just across from the main plant. Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933. 961-7239.
No dealers allowed.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson on Woo FM. Call 423-614-5553 to join in on the conversation. Now, back to Backfire.
We're back. Steve still in here. This is Daniel Brantley. John Stanberry.
Yes.
Franklin Chansey.
Yes.
Yes.
Roll call. All right, very
We're
good.
both here.
All right. Well, I understand there's a nice story. Or should we save the nice thing for the end?
No, we'll get to it now. Because
All right.
we might
Make it married.
Well, I mean, it's nice, but it's also
sad.
Yes.
But especially during the holidays, it's something that's a real serious issue.
So Dan Crenshaw, who's the Navy SEAL that lost his eye in Afghanistan, was elected to represent Texas' 2nd Congressional District. And you all may remember that Pete Davidson on Saturday Night Live kind of belittled him and made fun of the fact that he lost his eye in combat. Crenshaw ends up going on Saturday Night Live and kind of giving Davidson a pretty hard time back, did a pretty good job of it, and then they both used the opportunity to thank our veterans, and it actually was the kind of story that worked out good all the way around. Well, apparently this weekend, Pete Davidson put out some Instagram posts that made a lot of people concerned that he was considering hurting himself, and he's talked about the fact that he's had suicidal thoughts and I guess tendencies. Crenshaw reached out to him and actually called him and said, this is Crenshaw. He said, I talked to him personally on Sunday. We don't go back very far. We're not good friends, but I think he appreciated hearing from me. I told him everyone had a purpose in this world. God put you here for a reason. It's your job to find that purpose, and you should live that way. So he just, I think, tried to encourage him. And Crenshaw felt like that Davidson appreciated it, and I think he probably would. And the other thing that I wanted to do, this post was actually also mentioned that a Fox News meteorologist, 35-year-old woman with 2 children, killed herself a couple of weeks ago. And so this guy, this is actually interesting. You probably might like this, Franklin. Now, this is just someone that printed this story. He said, it's at Red State. Said, we have an overriding rule here at Red State. If you want to write here, you need to be pro-life. I take that to mean not only protecting lives in the womb, but encouraging people to fight on, even if you don't agree with them on politics, sports, or whatever, you matter, you truly do, all lives. So,
especially during the holidays, there's a lot of year. Depression that increases during that time period. And so it's a sobering reminder that we all ought to reach out and support each other when we see somebody in trouble.
So the suicide hotline is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's 1-800-273-TALK, 1-800-273-8255.
You mentioned something there about right to life, which brought to mind a current case that was just heard in Bradley County this week that's got some really interesting issues in it, and I don't know what my feelings are about it because I'm still thinking about it.
Okay.
But there's a couple who was divorcing. The names are not important, obviously. But before their marriage went south, they had done in vitro fertilization, and they have frozen embryos.
Right.
And now they're divorcing.
Who gets them?
Well, yeah, and it's really an interesting question if you think about it. We're not talking about what happens to those embryos. We're talking about who gets to decide what would happen to them. And I will tell you that one of the parties wants to keep them. The other one, I think I heard, and I didn't hear all the case, but I think wanted to donate them, but didn't want to have children with this person that they're now divorcing from. So it's a fascinating issue, and there's a lot of legal implications in that about that, and I'm kind of curious what your thoughts would be.
I've actually, there was a case several years ago that came up like that. One of them wanted to destroy the embryos, and one of them wanted to keep it, and I believe it ended up being litigated and was moving up the chain. I don't know where it ended up, and I don't know what precedent it might have set.
Well, in different states will come down in different places on that, I think. But
here's an interesting question for you, though, Franklin. What's Planned Parenthood's position on that?
I have no idea.
Well, my point is, it's interesting because actually there's a story this week. Planned Parenthood has made an ad, and through the entire ad, they refer to the baby. Never once is fetus mentioned. They actually refer to it as a baby at conception, which is a whole ideological step for them. Now, they still say you have a right to terminate it, but where's the pro-choice people in this?
Well, I don't know the answer, but I can see lots of issues here. One of which is, the pro-choice people have generally taken the position that a woman has the right to control what's happening inside her body. These embryos are not inside her body. Okay?
That's true.
So that's the first question. So when I heard some people say, well, I think, the woman should get to decide that. Okay. Well,
but
and these were some conservative people who were saying that, and I said, well, take that to the next logical step then. You're saying the woman gets to decide what happens to embryos. Is it different because they're outside of her body? That's the first question. All right. And again, I'm not taking a position on it because it just made me think a lot about what.
Well, here's the thing. If it's outside of the body, Franklin, what is it? It's half. My point is, it's half her and half him.
Okay.
Why would either one of them have any greater right to determine
that's the next question. Do they have to agree? If they don't agree, what happens at that point?
Well, I think if they don't agree, you probably have to terminate them.
Okay. I don't have an opinion about this one. This is actually one of those cases that I was glad I'm not a judge.
But
That's
here's
what
the
we're going to
point,
ask somebody
though,
to do.
Franklin. The liberals for years have said it's not a human life.
Okay.
Under that theory, there's no real deep question to it, is there? Why is it even a question if it's not a human life?
Well, but you've just taken the position that essentially if the parties don't agree on what should happen, that's...
Well, I mean, look, when I say destroy them, I think donating them is sort of the same thing. It destroys them from the standpoint of those two individuals don't have to assume responsibility for it.
So then...
I would
think that could be ordered. They have to donate them. That seems. You're talking about.
Here's your alternative. You order one of them, the woman, to have them implanted and to bring the baby to term, or you order one of them to destroy it. Personally, I think it sounds better to say we're going to put these in the system, and if someone else wants a child who can't have one, they're going to be available for that. But now there's also a case.
So that would essentially be the government taking these, right? I mean, I'm only playing devil's advocate.
I know you are, but I think there are plenty of private placement fertility clinics that would do that. Look, Franklin,
there'd be lots of places who would take.
There was a case, I believe, in Arkansas where two lesbians got a man to donate sperm, and so they could have a child. After their marriage fell apart, which, by the way, happens at a much higher rate in homosexual marriages, but after it fell apart, the woman who had the baby then turned around and sued the man for child support. That was an interesting case. I'm not sure where that ended up. And he said, look, and he had a contract and everything. As I remember it, a judge actually voided the contract and said, nope, you're on the hook for it.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, certainly a lot of issues to work through. No question about that.
Indeed. What a world. And before we run out of time, which we're not really too close, but Lamar Alexander, not going to run for re-election in 2020. Thoughts, comments, questions, concerns?
Well, he certainly had a long run. It's going to set forth what I'd call a feeding frenzy in the state for people trying to replace him.
That would be Republicans. There'd probably be maybe two Democrats in the phone booth that might want to run.
There have been a couple of names that have been tossed out there. So
yeah, but your best name just got his hat handed to him a month ago.
My best name?
Bredesen was probably the strongest Democrat in the state to run, and he got his hat handed to him.
Perhaps. I think you can be assured that the Republican nominee will be somebody who's much farther to the right of Lamar Alexander.
Alexander's 78 right now, so he would have been 80 at the time. His statement was everything has to come to an end, and he added that it's time for somebody else to step in. He called President Trump. Alexander said Trump was disappointed, but he also congratulated him. But he was disappointed that he wasn't going to run.
It will be interesting to see if this decision affects Senator Alexander's voting over the next couple of years.
Well, right now he's chairman of the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Committee. But he's actually, I don't think so. Knowing Lamar Alexander, I think he'll view these next 2 years as important that he gets some things accomplished.
Oh, we do have a caller call in, but I would like to say before we take this call that just wanted to make an announcement that John Stanberry will be running for senator in 2020, so get ready.
Yeah, sure.
You're a live caller.
Hey, I'm enjoying the program this morning.
Well, thank you. What can we do for you?
You were talking about the cost of health insurance earlier, but I was reviewing my policy on my house insurance. I had some riders on it. I was looking to see what I could take off, and the lady told me you could take off earthquake insurance. And after that earthquake up the road, I'm glad I didn't say, no, I don't want to take that off.
Yeah,
that's actually a good tip because there are a lot of insurance policies around here which do not provide for earthquake coverage.
You have to
buy it separately. And so I guess in light of what happened a week or two ago, it would be a good idea for everybody to look at their policy.
But that would be a market-based reaction, wouldn't it, Franklin? Nobody was worried about earthquakes, so they didn't pay for the earthquake rider. We had an earthquake. Some people will decide if they're less risk-averse to pay for it. Some will decide not to. That's called freedom.
Okay, John.
Yeah, Well, another thing, I bought a house in the historic district. Thank God I sold it. Y'all was talking about rights being taken away from me. I don't think I'd buy a house in the historic district again because of all the hoops you have to go through. And also the other day, Lee was wanting to get that house approved. So one of the ladies on the board on the historic district, wrote a letter against me, and somebody said, what Lee wants, Lee gets. Hey, thanks for taking my call, gentlemen.
Thank you. Have a good one. Well, so yeah, very excited for your campaign, John.
Okay.
Franklin, very kind of you to volunteer to head that up for him.
Franklin's going to be the campaign manager.
Yes. And what about Trump's foundation? Him being asked to shut down, and him.
They said they've been trying to shut it down for 2 years, and the government wouldn't let them.
I did see that they wanted to shut it down before he got elected, so it didn't look like there's anything. But
they were taking charitable contributions and using it to do things like have portraits of Donald Trump painted, or to put a fountain in front of a Trump hotel.
You mean like the Clinton Foundation has done for decades now?
Well,
for Bill and Hillary?
Actually, they were unable to find any charitable
They
work.
employ their daughter at hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. By the way,
that's charity work.
Yeah,
yeah, that's charity work.
First of all, if the Clinton Foundation does something illegal, I'm okay with them being prosecuted. All right.
Well,
but it's also true that the Clinton Foundation has done a lot of charitable work that had to do with vaccinations in the third world.
So if you do enough good, break a few laws.
I said no such thing, John. I didn't say that at all.
Well, Franklin,
I said prosecute them if they violate the law. But what I'm saying to you is that in this particular case, they weren't able to find much charitable work.
Franklin, in this case, the Clinton Foundation has been under investigation for much longer, and this same prosecutor hasn't forced them to close their foundation. And a matter of fact, I brought last week the drop in donations of the Clinton Foundation is pretty much overt proof that people were donating to buy political favor.
Okay.
Well, why hadn't this prosecutor moved to close the Clinton Foundation?
I don't know, John.
Because they're a protected class.
John, the FBI and the Department of Justice is run by Republicans. Investigate them.
It's run by career people. That's one of the problems with the government.
Well, I understand, according to this article, that dozens of, quote, serious conduct complaints against Justice Brett Kavanaugh are dismissed after he's confirmed in the Supreme Court. What's going on there, gents?
He has life tenure. That's what's going on there.
It was a smear campaign that was based on nothing. And matter of fact, as this most recent ruling he just did, he's not a particularly hard conservative justice. The Democrats should have been happy with it, but as usual, anything President Trump does, they're going to try to complain about and thwart.
Someone told me the other day, and I have not researched this, that people were paid to bring up false accusations against them. Is this
no
true?
evidence to support that?
Actually,
That's all I need.
it depends on how you look at it. You know, what's the definition of is? If these groups paid to fly people to D.C. and paid for them to stay and paid for them to testify, paid for other people to stand out front and protest, that's kind of what you're talking about. Now, Franklin, was there a contract drawn up that they said we will pay you X amount to make a false claim? No. But all someone had to do was make the false claim, and then all these groups stepped in and supported them financially.
Yeah, that's
same
why,
thing.
That's why all these college classmates and so forth of him issued statements calling his statements into question because they had
one of them did, Franklin.
No,
there were dozens that said everything about him was upright. One of them
they were all
said
being
that.
paid. Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, Christy Blasey Ford got paid pretty well, up to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars on the GoFundMe page. They raised over $700,000 for her. She didn't pay her way to fly to D.C. She didn't pay her way to stay in D.C. Organizations paid for her to do all of that. And then what happened after he was confirmed? She said she didn't want to follow it up any further.
Well, there is a potential ban on bump stocks coming.
Not potential. It was passed by the Trump
administration. And let's make this clear. What administration actually legalized bump stocks? The Obama administration.
So they've only been legal
under the ruling yesterday from the Trump administration. This is not a court doing it. I think gun owners have 90 days to turn them in.
They do.
They have until late March.
And this was, keep in mind, we talk about, I talked about the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy does a lot of these things that take over our lives. But this particular decision was actually pushed by Donald Trump himself. He called him up. He said it publicly that he thought this needed it. Now, I will tell you, as a gun owner, I don't care a whole lot about it. But you can hook your thumb in your belt loop, let the gun rest, on your hip, pull the trigger, and you can shoot a gun bump stock style without a bump stock. And that's one of my points about all of this. You can regulate whatever you want to regulate. Bad people are going to do bad things.
It'll be interesting to see how they do it because it says tens of thousands of them on the market right now.
Well, what will be interesting will be what happens in the future if people don't turn them in.
I'll tell you what happens. What this has become, what a bump stock has become, is a Class 3 weapon. And if you get caught with a Class 3 weapon without a Class 3 tax stamp and license for it, you will go to federal prison.
And Class 3 is machine gun, basically.
Well, that's what they said. This has been moved. It's not just machine gun. It stupidly includes silencers. It shouldn't, but it does. But if you're caught with one, you're going to go to prison.
And you can get a license to have a silencer, so I guess you can get a license to have a bump stock.
There are 350,000 licensed, legally owned machine guns in the United States of America. Not a single one of them has ever been used in the commission of a crime. By the way, there was actually a story on that, if I can grab it.
Please hold.
Well, anyway, Every Town for Gun Violence or something like that put out some statistics that said, here it is, they said that 39,733 people were killed by gun violence in 2017. Approximately 1,100 more than were killed by motor vehicle accidents, and that it was an increase. It was the first time we'd had an increase. What they didn't say was the rate of suicides, and was actually what went up. It wasn't gun violence. It was suicide. Over 2/3 of them were suicide, and surprisingly, the rate of suicide in general increased from 2016 to 2017, and the increase was actually greater for non-firearm suicide rates than for firearm suicide rates. So the people killing themselves with other ways other than firearms went up more than firearms.
Overwhelmingly, firearms are the weapon of choice for suicide.
And that was 2/3 of firearms.
2/3. See, but that's the point. They do this on purpose. They use that number to make people go, oh my gosh. But when you pull the suicides out, the gun rate actually decreased. The murder rate decreased this last year. For example, Japan. Almost no private ownership of guns in Japan, but their suicide rate is higher than our suicide rate, one of the highest in the world. So this is very misleading by these gun control groups, the way they put these statistics out. And they do it on purpose to try and create the narrative that we're having an increasing problem with guns. We're not. We're having an increasing problem with a society that's amoral, doesn't believe in life, is kind of obsessed with, am I happy? And that's why your suicide rates are going up.
Just as a reminder, back to I guess we're staying on a serious note. If you are struggling with depression or things like that, suicide hotline, 800-273-TALK, TALK. I wish we could put a finger on why the suicide rate is increasing like it is. And
interestingly enough, the social media aspect of it is a significant issue. And you would think, at least on the surface, it would be the kind of thing that expanded people's social circles, but what it really does is make their social circles less personal.
And it also increases bullying because it's not face-to-face. People will say things online that they would never look someone in the eye and say.
And so...
you had that girl, that case, I believe they cleared her, that her boyfriend said, I'm going to kill myself, and she encouraged him to, and he did. But look...
you had to, just a year and a half ago or so, there were, 2 students in Copper Basin in 3-month area high school students who killed themselves over bullying incident.
Look, for decades now, we've done this give kids self-esteem crap. And so instead of earning self-esteem, you're given self-esteem. Well, what that does is that tells you, I should have this. I should have all the victories in life. I should have all the success. I should have girls hanging on me or boys, coming after me. And when life actually ends up being life, you're disappointed.
Well, I do want you to know, John, that you actually should have all the victories in life.
On these arguments I do, so I'm okay.
And especially humility. That's
that government. We've run out of time.
Have all the humility.
Look at all this paper I've got.
Oh, by the way, the Boy Scouts are filing for bankruptcy. So congratulations, Franklin.
Actually, the liberal progressive are doing very well.
The liberal progressives have done what they actually wanted to do. They've destroyed an institution.
Well, interestingly enough, the Southeastern chapter of the Boy Scouts of America reported that their finances are very solid.
That would be the conservative part of the country. You're right. Just like the Methodist Church. Okay. It's growing in the Southern conferences. It's collapsing in the Western liberal conferences. My point is, Franklin, where are all the companies that actually blackmailed them into making these changes that have led to their decline coming up with the money for them? Where are all the homosexuals putting their children into the Boy Scouts that forced them to change their policies? Where are they? Where's their support for the Boy Scouts now that they're in trouble?
I don't know. Nobody called and asked me for
So the national organization filed for bankruptcy.
The national organization filed, but here's why. They forced these changes on them. In 2015, they forced them to take openly gay members, or 13. In 2015, they had to take openly gay scoutmasters. In 18, they kind of pushed them into allowing girls. So their membership has gone from 4 million members at its peak to 2.3 million at present. And the Mormon Church has now announced that they're going to leave in 2020 and start their own organization. That will cut another third of their membership. All at the hands of the liberal progressives. So congratulations. Put a notch in the handle of your guns. You all destroyed the Boy Scouts.
A notch in the handle of our guns would seem to be an oxymoron.
Hey, no.
Super uber liberals.
Well, speaking of weapons, there was a win for freedom in New York this past week when they federal court
nunchucks are protected by the Second Amendment.
Well, look, I'm glad because in China, the mass murders that happened in China happened with swords. And again, it makes my point. You're not going to control the violence by trying to control inanimate objects.
Well, I just think they didn't have nunchucks in mind when the Constitution was written.
I don't know. Alexander Hamilton's pet name for Thomas Jefferson was Grasshopper.
Hey, all right, before we go, just I know I shouldn't have done this at the last second. Is the government going to be shut down over the wall? What are our initial thoughts on that?
Well, it appears from the president's statements yesterday, no. He appears to have backed away from his threat.
Newsflash, Elizabeth Warren has figured out she's not a woman of color. So.
All right, well, that's it for Backfire this week. Come back to us in a week or 2 or 3, and hopefully no ball will be better and won't be out fishing. Goodbye.
You've been listening to Backfire with Steve